This conference
I know
will
it's
now be recorded.
I know there's some nuance there, and by the way, in case you didn't hear, this is going to be a recorded conference. There are asset-based fees, hourly fees, flat fees, retainer fees, fees based on income, fees based on net worth, and let's not forget good old commissions. But today we are going to delve into a couple of sides of that. We're going to look at the asset-based fees, the predominant model used across the.
Jeff, are you there? Uh-oh. We seem to have lost Jeff. I believe because of his connection with his provider. But until he gets back, I assume and hope that he will get back, I will try to pick up where he left off in terms of what we are hoping to do today. And Jeff was just identifying the different types of fee methods. That's the term I use. And then it was cut off. So Clark and Carolyn, I don't know whether there was a decision about who goes first and how long your remarks are going to be, but I will flip an imaginary coin. And Carolyn, do you want to call it?
Tails.
Tails. Oops. Tails it is. So
Oh.
you get to choose. You get to choose whether you want Clark to go first, so you can reply to him, or whether you want to go first.
No, I'm happy to go first. So first off, a little bit about me. I have my firm is Life Planning Partners. We've been in business 20 years next year, so I'm very excited about that. I started out, I was a physician and became a financial planner. And I started out my firm as an AUM-based firm because that's all I heard of. And I wanted to be fee only, and that was like the main way to be fee only. The other was hourly. I talked too much, and so hourly wasn't going to work for me because I didn't want clients to have clocks ticking in their head. And also, we do holistic financial life planning. And one Jeff said earlier about how we all deliver the same service. I disagree with that. Some planners are very, very heavy into true financial planning. The majority of them do some financial planning, and a lot do very little financial planning. And so, so we all do different things. And the problem I found with AUM structure for me is that my focus was on holistic financial planning, of which investment management is a part, but it's not the whole kit and caboodle. So very early on, I'd read an article by Bob Veras, and I decided to switch to a flat fee based on complexity. And so I kind of knew how much work each of my clients took. I figured out what's it going to take to be profitable and make a good living getting where I needed to go. And so in 2007, I switched to flat fee, and I haven't looked back. Our typical client is the millionaire next door do-it-yourselfer who has become too complicated to do it themselves well anymore. And they actually seek us out because of that flat fee, because they realize that the AUM-based model is not very advantageous for them, and they want really good financial planning. So it's worked great for me. We do manage, so we manage all of our clients' assets. We manage about $260 million right now. And but it's all done under a flat fee. There's no separate AUM-based fee, and we do all the comprehensive planning in that fee, including the goal planning, projection planning, tax planning, estate planning, insurance planning, and any financial problem solving that happens. So that's my firm in a nutshell. Is there anything you want me to say to that, Knut?
I wasn't going to suppose to tell you what to say, Carolyn, but but maybe just provide an overview of, and if there's anything more to say about, well, you said, why you're doing this, but maybe a little bit more detail there. So that's the only thought that comes to my mind.
Yeah, so I'll add a little bit. So, to me, the crux of good financial planning is doing a real financial plan, and that's figuring out a person's goals and checking out their cash flow, making sure they're tax efficient. And that is the focus of what we do. And investment management, again, it is a part. And I think that might be Jeff back. But it's just a part, the CFP board has 6 areas that you're supposed to cover. Well, we're covering all of that. And the thing, somebody has a lot of noise behind them. The good thing about that is that our clients really value the financial planning. When people are doing financial planning under an AUM asset fee, then they're really denigrating the value of financial planning, because it's like, they're doing this financial planning, but they're basing it on an AUM fee. It just gives the wrong message. So when you're charging for financial planning, you should be, when you're doing financial planning, you should be charging for financial planning. And that puts the value back on, to me, the most important part of the services that we deliver.
Thank you, Carolyn. Clark, you are
Yes,
on.
Canute. Okay, some background. I've been involved in this business in every sort of fee compensation method you can imagine, because I started out after 3 years at Arthur Andersen doing tax work. I got into financial planning down the street from the College for Financial Planning in Denver. And we were, as most every financial planner was back in the day, commission compensated. And we were insurance licensed. I became insurance licensed and broker licensed as well. I didn't care for that side of the business, and that lasted a couple of years. And left Denver, went to Chicago, and got back into the CPA firm environment in a local Chicago firm that had a financial planning department. And we charged by the hour. And if a client wanted an estimate or a fixed fee, we would be willing to do that in most cases. I spent 5 years there, and then joined Price Waterhouse. I was a CFA at that point. I'd gotten my CFP back in about 84, 85 when I was in Denver. One of our partners helped start the College for Financial Planning, so it was a requirement. So I became a CFP. And then by the end of the 80s, I was a CFA, joined Price Waterhouse, who was a registered investment advisor at that time, at least a subsidiary of BW was a registered investment advisor. And that had a lot of appeal to me because investments was the thing that I was most interested in. And in 1991, we actually brought in the first AUM client, by all estimations, probably the first AUM client in the CPA profession, because at that time only Price Waterhouse was a registered investment advisor. And it was really only until 1990 that the AICPA allowed anything other than hourly billing. So that was a watershed time for CPAs in the business. And so my passion revolved around investment advisory services. We took a consultative approach. We weren't money managers. We evaluated and hired money managers for clients. And so that client that became a Price Waterhouse client in 91, still a client of mine today. And in fact, along the way, well, I'll just finish. I got out of public accounting in 99 after I left Price Waterhouse, went to Deloitte, and helped create their investment consulting practice at Deloitte, where I was a national director. I then left there and got into institutional consulting. And to me, that's important because that's the business model that we follow with our clients. It's basically the institutional consulting model, where our job is to present options to clients, educate them, give them information, help them make good decisions. I got back involved in financial planning a few years after that. I really missed the individual side of the business and being a planner. But in 2006, I decided that if I wanted to truly be a fee-only advisor, I was going to have to start my own firm to do it. And that happened in 2006. So, yes, we started out with the AUM model. It's worked well for us. I think that there are key aspects to when AUM can work and when it makes sense and when it doesn't. To me, the most important thing as we debate which fee model for a fee only advisor is best. But we have to keep in mind that all of us that are fee only have made a decision to not make as much money as we could. Think about that. In this business, if you want to make a lot of money from your clients, what are you going to do? You're going to charge them a fee and you're going to dual register and you're going to make money a half a dozen different ways based on how you get that client to invest. So let's start with that every fee model has its issues, its challenges. But if you're starting with being a good fiduciary, that's your heart and soul, and that's what you're going to do, then the idea that somehow or another an AUM fee model doesn't meet a fiduciary standard, I think, quite frankly, is ludicrous because it does not breach the duty of loyalty because your client pays your fee just like they pay a fixed fee or an hourly fee. You're not being paid by someone else, which is too many times the case with advisors that are not fee only. I don't want to get too high on my horse there. I know that there are lots of very credible, very good, very honest, dual registered advisors, and they're doing everything in their power to do the right thing for their clients. I'm just making the point that from a fiduciary point of view, if your loyalty goes to the person or people paying your fee and compensating you, then AUM is as fiduciary a method as any other method you can come up with. So I mean, and there's issues along the way, things that you want to do, et cetera. I don't want to turn this into too long of a speech, as we want to have a bit of a discussion here. But yeah, there's much to all of these options that we all have to think through and make sure that we're always doing the right thing for our clients.
Hello, can you guys hear me now? I hope so. I can't tell if I'm connecting or not.
Yep,
Yes.
you're there.
Okay, good. Thank you. I don't know how far I got into my introduction before I got disconnected, and maybe I'll get disconnected again. I hope not. But thank you, and I apologize for all these technical issues here that I'm having. But while I'm here, I'm going to ask a few questions. So, Carolyn, can you give me your perspective on why you think the asset-based fee model is so popular in across the financial planning industry? And I know it's not your model, but I want to get your take on that.
It's easy. It's easy to tell somebody you're charging them 1%. It doesn't sound like a lot of money. And then, in fact, we had somebody come to us recently that, we told her our flat fee. She says, wow, that's a lot of money. I said, well, you're paying more than that in your current advisor. And she went to her current advisor, who does no financial planning, by the way. It's all investment management. And she was paying a heck of a lot more. And it's like, wow. So, yeah, it's so easy to just say I'm charging you 1%, and you're not really, they see the actual money coming out, but people don't really pay attention to it very well. And before you know it, it's like, wow, you're paying a lot of money, and what are you really getting for it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Clark, what do you say to that? Do you say it's popular? Would you agree that it's popular because it's easy, or because it is popular? You can't deny that.
I don't. Yeah, I think that there's a variety of factors. It isn't just one thing. And sure, for advisors that aren't being as scrupulous as they should be, they're not being transparent about that fee, what that fee means in dollars and cents. So our approach is we're meeting with a potential client. we talk about our fee schedule and we tell them exactly what that fee would be based on the assets that they're going to have us give them advice on. So they're crystal clear up front on that fee, and they are every quarter. See, to me, an AUM fee is a fixed fee that's calculated every quarter. It's
It's not
calculated every
fixed.
quarter.
It goes up
Yeah,
and down with money.
well, it's fixed for a quarter. Yours is fixed for a year, or is yours fixed for life? I mean, maybe it's for life,
2 years.
but whether it's, I'm just saying theoretically, Carolyn, it's, think about it, it's a fixed fee that's calculated once a quarter. And it's calculated based on a number, a factor that the client understands, and that is the value of their assets. And they know as the value of their assets goes up, we make more money. And when it goes down, we make less money. And every quarter they get a detailed breakdown of their fee, how it was calculated. We make sure that they could go back to their original agreement and their fee schedule and recalculate their fee based on the information that we give them in that letter. So know the dollar amount every quarter. So there's no obfuscation, there's no attempt to not be transparent. And quite frankly, those that don't do that, those that try to hide behind percentages, yeah, it's 1%, it's 0.5%, and don't go beyond that, I think they're not really meeting the standard of transparency and communication with their client that they should be. The client needs to know how much they're spending and what it's for. And if that's being done, I think it's hard to criticize how that fee is calculated. We have to assume that our clients, if they're shown the information, if they're told what the fee is, that they're capable of then making a decision about whether or not that works for them. And I'll just give you a quick aside. That client that I first had in 91 at Price Waterhouse, who's been with me through various changes throughout the years, at one point in time, I asked him as his assets grew and grew to a pretty substantial amount at this point, if he would like to go on a fixed fee schedule instead of this AUM model. He said, no, absolutely not. No, I want to know that if I'm making less money, you're making less money. And if I'm making more money, I want you to make more money. It's
Okay, so I
exactly
got a lot to say about that.
what he
I
said.
have a lot to say about that because here's the issue. When you should do an investment, and I'm not saying you, I'm saying in general, advisors should do an investment policy statement based on the client's goals and their ability to take risks. Some of our clients, for good reasons, they may be 80% bonds, and especially when fixed income wasn't making that great. Is it going to give the advisor the incentive to do the right thing with a client's portfolio based on their goals and their needs when, I mean, you can't control the market? And so, is that, and Clark, I'm sure, I know you're a wonderful guy and I know you're doing the right thing for your clients, but not everybody does. And so are you taking undue risk for them to try to increase your money? And so, not you, just I'm saying advisors in general. And the other thing, it's like the advisors that are now pulling over, and you get these emails all the time from these aggregators saying, oh, pull over your client's 401k assets and then charge a percent on that. That's so wrong because there's not much you can do with that 401k. A lot of advisors ignore the 401k. They don't take it all in the overall investment policy. So that's where, and again, just like you said, so many good people doing great work on AUM based models. It's just a matter of, though, to me, the incentives there don't really align with the client.
And again, for the unscrupulous, for the individual who is just driven by how much they can take to the bottom line, the AUM model provides an opportunity to do that. But I would suggest that if that advisor really wants to make money, that advisor is also dual registered and an insurance agent. and they're using their relationship with their client to turn that client into a customer. And if that advisor is not doing that, then right up front, I know that this advisor's heart is in the right place, because if it was all about money, he'd be going down a road that would make him a lot more money than finagling this or that with a client to make a few more basis points. I mean, it just,
Clark,
to me, that doesn't
Clark,
make a lot of sense.
Clark, let me ask you a question. You do holistic planning, correct?
No,
You're just managing client portfolios? You're
No.
just managing assets?
no. We're managing assets. We're investment advisor consultants first. We will help
Okay.
clients. We will work with a client's attorney to work through their estate planning. We will help them determine appropriate amounts of money that they can spend, assets that they would need to have to support a lifestyle that they've defined and that they've laid out there. We'll help them with charitable planning and charitable giving if they want to. I've spent many years in estate planning and doing estate planning, I mean, literally since the 80s. So we will do other things, and we've laid that out in their agreement. We leave ourselves open to being able to charge an additional fee by the hour, if in fact that were necessary. My billing rate is the same as when I left Deloitte, which is $650 an hour, which is a lot, which I've only charged in litigation support situations. I've never charged a client that, and don't intend to, because even smaller clients that we might spend a lot of time on, we know how this business goes. When you do a lot of time in estate planning, you don't need to do that every year. Spend a lot of time in their retirement planning, you don't need to do that every year. So
if you have a smaller client, somebody with less a smaller investment portfolio, or maybe no investment portfolio, you can just work with them on an hourly basis?
No, we won't do that. Our minimum is $3 million. That's a $26,000 fee. So that's 2% on the, 1% on the first 2 million, and then 60 basis points after that. It drops again to 30 basis points at 5 million, and then 15 basis points at 10 million. So we have a simple.
How often do you adjust your fees, if you adjust them at all?
Well, we had never adjusted them. I actually was using the same fee schedule that we had at Price Waterhouse until recently. And we did change our fee schedule from 0.9375 basis points on the first million to 1%. And we simplified our fee schedule. So we have recently raised our fees, and not a client has complained. In fact, I had a couple of clients thinking it's about time because of inflation, et cetera. I know it sounds crazy, but we have very close relationships with our clients. We only have 32 families, and there's two of us. We're CPAs and CFAs and CFPs, and so we're a little unique, I think, given our size, given our minimums, given our history, all of that. But it is a fee model that works very well for us.
So,
I mean, I've been in the
Clark, if your model is essentially portfolio management and not the more comprehensive planning without extra charges on top of that, I mean, I could certainly see the asset-based argument. That's really no different than the fees you pay when you invest in a mutual fund or something like that. You pay more when there's more money in there. But can you, Clark, see the perspective that Carolyn and some others are presenting, that charging on asset management when your value add is probably well beyond the portfolio management side, all the other services that a holistic planner provides? Can you see that, where the disconnect can be identified?
Absolutely. I see the AUM model came from the investment money management business. With the 40 Act, money managers charge fees. This is the way they always did it. And it was my involvement with that approach, even at Pricewaterhouse and Deloitte, was a institutional consulting approach. It wasn't managing money, it was managing managers, etc. Okay. So, and when you look at that business, there is a lot of work that's done that never gets allocated to a particular client. And so it is one way to do value billing to ensure that people with less assets, they get less benefit from that, pay less, and vice versa. Now, if a person is doing planning, just planning, and their investment involvement is an asset allocation model, and then it's turned over to someone else to implement that, or it's just some ETFs or index funds, and there's no reporting, there's no monitoring, there's none of the things that an institutional consultant does and gets paid for, then I do myself have a bit of a problem with that fee model. But I will say that if they're being crystal clear and transparent with their clients, and they're identifying where they have these conflicts, and they talk to the client about how they're managing those conflicts, as we do. And again, we're not decision makers for clients. We're information providers. We're educators. We'll take a client through what they need to know to make a good, smart decision. And our clients are pretty smart people. So there really are two entirely different things, I think. And I myself wonder how an AUM fee really fits in when it's just kind of an ongoing financial planning relationship and there's really very little that's being done on the investment side.
Right. Do either of you see a future of maybe 5 or 10 years down the road where financial planning is separated? The fees charged for financial planning is separate from the portfolio management side. And I know there are financial advisors doing that now, but do you see a point where it becomes more of a kind of a common practice in financial services?
I think that will happen. And the reason why is, people who are doing holistic financial planning and charging AUM, the amount of time they're realizing, or especially investment managers that realize that they have to do financial planning to compete. They understand how hard the work is and that it's increasing their overhead. So they're charging financial planning fees to kind of recoup that money, basically. So I think that's one reason that's happening. I think we're going to see it more and more. Do I think the investors and clients are going to win? No. I think that the investment management industry still charges way too much money to manage investments. And that's what it comes down to. And so I totally get the models where they're charging financial planning fees and charging tiny investment fees. I mean, I have no issue with that, other than it still, gives some, to me, creates more conflicts that don't need to be there. But I do agree with you, Jeff, that we'll see more of that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as a big opportunity. I know it's a little bit of a model redesign for a lot of planning firms, but there's so many DIY investors out there right now, and there's so many people that are, maybe they've been doing it themselves through their 401k plan throughout their career, and now they've got a chunk of money and they're heading toward retirement, and they're like, man, I feel like I've done okay, and I'm still doing okay with the portfolio management, but I want a financial professional now to tell me, how do I transition into retirement where I start looking at income and what kind of other, insurance issues should I be worried about, and some of those other things as you move toward retirement when you start to have money. And that's the funny thing about that is a lot of asset-based advisors, they want you when you have money, and that's maybe a point when you have money, but I've you might have somebody that's close to retirement and they say, I don't want to pay you 1% of this. I kind of built this on my own. I need help with the planning part. And,
That's a very,
that's
absolutely.
where I see as the opportunity.
Yeah. So Jeff, I've actually had situations like that, and I've sent those people to financial planners. They needed holistic, comprehensive financial planning. We don't do that. Decided years ago that that wasn't going to be our forte. And and if we don't do it on an ongoing, regular basis, we're not competent to do it. And, being a good fiduciary requires competency. It is a, prudent expert rule applies to us. And so we're the first to recognize that. So anyway,
Yeah.
the point is, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying, Jeff, and that every advisor needs to recognize their limitations and be true to who they are and what they do and what they hold themselves out to be. So we identify situations where potential clients or clients need something that we're not offering. We get them with somebody who does that, that's competent and qualified, and that doesn't do what we do. I mean, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that there's a synergy there, and just like we work with attorneys, and just like we might work with insurance agents and other professionals, we're that truly that center
Yeah.
um, that gets professionals involved as they need to be. And if we were a big shop, we would maybe do that in house. We just have a different department. We'd be in one department, and the planners would be in another department.
Yeah. My question often, and why I've had issues in the past with asset-based fee models, is that you always hear this industry, financial service industry, talking about, ways to capture the younger investor and all this. But the only way, you can't do that when they don't have any money, and a lot of them have more debt than anything. But alternative fee models are a way to serve those younger people by getting away from asset-based fees. And, subscription models is what younger people are so used to in pretty much every walk of their life, other than asset management. So I'm just wondering why more advisors, and I know, Carolyn and Clark, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but why more advisors aren't looking at that as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to basically capture somebody before they start making a lot of money and have them as a client for life. And you're still getting money from them. You're still getting paid. I don't know if some of the other people on the call here, Matt or Cody, have an opportunity to speak up. It's kind of up to Knut. It's his show. But I would be interested as to why there's not more of that. Why not more use of flat and subscription models to attract younger clients and bring younger people into the financial services kind of fold?
Well, Jeff, I think that, I mean, my response to that would be you have to look at, again, your business model and who you are and what you want to be. The kind of situation you're talking about requires having relatively young and somewhat inexperienced advisors who aren't costing you a lot of money to work with individuals that aren't going to pay you a lot of money. Those clients can be very time consuming because they have all kinds of issues and every dollar matters. And so that I've been there and done that. And if you just want to be a firm with low minimums and a lot of clients and kind of running people through and keeping your advisors, at their desk all day long, having meetings, 6, 8, whatever meetings a day to make that model work, have at it. It's not a model I liked when I was in that model. So we're not in a marketing mode. We're not in a growth mode. We really don't care if we grow or not. We pick up family members and friends of clients and the like, and that works for us. So and that's who we are. So it doesn't, none of that appeals to us. And quite frankly, I don't see how a firm, depending, I mean, it all depends on what that subscription fee is. But if you're talking to people that don't have much money to begin with, how much are they going to be able to afford to pay you? And what are you going to be able to afford to pay your advisors who are spending their time on clients that aren't paying much? I mean, that's the real world. That's the reality of it. It was extraordinarily difficult to make an hourly financial planning operation work, even in big, well-known CPA firms, because it just it's just so hard. And if you're doing it hourly, especially hourly is horrible, because then every time you're talking to the client, they want to hang up the phone because they know you're spending, every minute they talk to you,
Clark,
they're
there,
getting
Clark,
billed.
I want to stop you here a second. There
Okay,
are a
sure.
lot of young people out there that make a significant amount of money. They don't have assets. So an AUM based advisor is not going to serve them all. They're not going to get served. So that's why the subscription model is really growing. It's growing well. And I'm so proud, the YPN planning network really started that model. And there are so many young people now getting good advice because of that model. So I think you're incorrect there in saying that, those young people, they do take time, but you can charge a fair fee to give them the care that they need.
If you can charge a fair fee, if you can make money at it, then it's great. I
They're
I
doing it.
agree with you. It's a great thing. Cheryl Garrett has done this kind of a
Well,
thing,
and that's,
keeping
yeah,
fees
the
low.
hourly model works for a lot of people. And so, the beautiful thing about this profession is there's so many different people with different needs that there can be multiple fee models out there. I just think that to be a fiduciary, we need to be very good about disclosing all the conflicts, what works. If a client doesn't fit our fee model, we refer them to somebody who they would fit with. And so, I mean, that's why I love the beauty of all the different fee models out there. I don't refer them to AUM based advisors though.
Yeah. No, I like other fee models. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against any of them. I just know, having been on the hourly side, the challenges, the hassles, tracking time, monthly bills, getting bills collected, writing off time. I mean, the list goes on. Uh, the subscription fee model sounds like a great one because it's a regular, ongoing thing, and the
Mm-hmm.
client expects it. And
Hmm.
maybe you can avoid the billing because it's on a credit card. That's super.
It doesn't have to be on
But
a credit card, but yeah.
yeah, I mean,
I'd like to
Hey,
jump here.
Carolyn.
I'd like to jump in here, Jeff. You and ask Carolyn just one very specific question, and then offer to Cody if you want to add your perspective as well on this issue that we're just talking about right here. Carolyn, would you feel differently about the AUM model if it was standard operating procedure that in terms of the billing they translated the percentage quarterly billing into dollars? Would that make you feel differently about it? Just
Uh,
basic question.
I mean, to me, I think that's being more of a fiduciary. I would not feel differently about it because I do think if you're just doing investment management, you need to learn how to like mute your microphone. Just mute it. It's a button there. It says mute.
Jesus.
Just mute your microphone.
Yeah,
Click the picture of the microphone.
it's not responding, Carolyn.
Oh no.
I mean,
Who are
Murphy's
you?
Law.
suppose I could take a hammer to it, maybe it would respond.
I know.
I'm
So
sorry. I'm sorry.
going back to, I mean, my biggest argument against AUM fees is they denigrate the value of what people really need, and that's financial planning. And Clark, in all due respect, to me, how can you manage a person's money if you haven't first done a real financial plan to understand their goals, their needs, their cash flow, their tax planning, all of that? And that's,
We
to
do a
me, that's
lot of that. Yeah,
planning.
we do that. We spend,
Okay.
so Carolyn, when we bring on board a new client, that client goes through 3 to 5 2-hour meetings to talk about all of that. We get the information that we need. We find out what their goals are, what's important to them. Again, you know, given the minimums that we have, we can pretty much focus on a handful things for them. If they want a comprehensive plan relating to, and we'll even help a client determine if they need life insurance, for example. We have to be careful about that because we're not insurance licensed.
But
Uh,
you can
so if it's
still
a
do an
serious
insurance needs
consideration,
analysis. I want to say,
what's
so
that?
to me, a financial planner is equivalent to a family doctor. You're supposed to know 99 to 95% and
Yeah.
be able to take care of 99 to 95% of everything. We tell our clients how much life insurance they need. We become their advocates when we help them shop for it. And they love that because they know they're not being taken for a ride by the insurance
Right.
agents.
And we'll
And
do the same thing.
right. And
But
so for
most of
me,
our clients don't need life insurance. They
but
don't.
yeah,
They're elderly. They've got millions of dollars. They
right. I'm
simply
just
don't
using
need it.
that as an example. We do the same thing on P&C insurance. We do the same thing for estate planning. We act as their advocate. Now, the other thing is the problem with people doing AUM, basically the rich clients are subsidizing the poorer clients and in a practice. And so I don't think that's fair. And that was the issue I was having. I was doing all this great financial planning and I had these people who needed a lot of work, weren't paying a lot of money. I'm like, this just doesn't sit right, and that's why I switched.
Okay, let me address that. The large clients are subsidizing the small clients. I would argue that the large clients are getting more value out of the investment analysis and process that we take them through because they have more assets and those good decisions earns them more money than somebody with a smaller account. That client also is a far greater risk financially because they have more assets. And if we make a mistake and something becomes a problem and they lose money and we're responsible, we have a lot more liability with a larger client than a smaller client. And here's the last point, that larger client knows it, Carolyn. That client knows how we bill, and they can look at our fee schedule and they know if a client has $3 million, they're paying this. And if they have $10 million, they're paying that. They know that. So this is the transparency that comes with AUM billing. Clients know what they're getting billed, how they're getting billed, how it's determined, and that they, in fact, may be paying more, and in many cases will be paying less than other clients who have different amounts of assets. So it's their call. If they don't like that, they can go somewhere else.
Hey, Carolyn, I want to ask you in the interest of full disclosure, and I know you and I have discussed this in the past. Can you identify any potential conflicts of interest in your fee model?
Well, the biggest conflict is, we're charging people this quarterly flat fee, and are we doing the work? So you can,
Uh
if
huh.
you're not doing the work, if you have clients paying the bill and you're not delivering what you promised, that's a huge conflict. But we have processes in place to make sure we're doing all the work and clients know we're doing the work. So to me, that's the biggest one. The other one is, since it's a complexity fee, you have to make sure you're paying attention. And we do. We have ways we track whether clients become more complex, less complex, and we actually lower clients' fees if they become less complex. We revisit the fee every 2 years. Most people don't become less complex though. In fact, some, more become more complex because they're at, and it's not just based on assets, but when your assets grow, then your tax planning probably changes, then your estate planning changes. So there's more complexity when there's more money, but we don't raise fees dollar for dollar based on how much their assets have grown.
Carolyn,
Uh huh.
I've got a quick follow up to that, and
Mhm.
because you touched on something that is top of mind of many of state regulators, and I know that we're not dealing with state regulators here, but a lot of advisors are in terms of what are you showing on a quarterly basis, for example, in terms of deliverables. That's a key issue for again many state regulators, and what we have argued, in fact, that relates to this conversation is don't go back. Don't default to asking for 15-minute increments and keeping hourly sheets, because that's the wrong way to go. But what we did say is that require that advisors provide pretty detailed descriptions of what was delivered in terms of documents, in terms of tasks, and and if you spent 8 hours with the Smiths, during the month of May, that should show up somewhere. Anyway, so that's what I was wondering, sort of how do you do that in terms of quarterly reporting and describing what was delivered and what was not?
Yeah, and so we revisit each part of a client's financial plan every year. So there's 5 different reports we deliver throughout the year. That's the investment review, the estate review, the insurance review, cash flow planning, and tax planning. So they get that deliverable. We, of course, we use Salesforce. We track every task that we're doing because we do a lot. Our clients call us for any money emergencies that happen. So like when their dog bites somebody and they're going to get sued or whatever happens, we help them walk through that. So we document all those conversations, and so everything we do, and we keep this beautiful spreadsheet. So I've been audited. I mean, we'll all get audited. But when I was early on, I was registered state of Florida. I was flat fee then. The auditor, we keep this spreadsheet of when we've delivered the reports on every client. And I showed the auditor the spreadsheet, the dates the report was delivered, and of course we have all the reports in the client files. And the auditor said, "This is amazing. Nobody does this." And then after the audit was closed, she called me and asked if she could come work for me. So that was early
Talk
on in the
about it.
state of Florida. Now I'm SEC registered. I've been SEC registered for a while now, and they haven't given us any grief in our audits, and we can show we provide a plenty of value for the money, and especially because our clients are the millionaire next door do-it-yourselfers. Their fees, and this is where I don't. It's like people find out their fees are significantly less than what they are paying an AUM based advisor, and we're delivering a heck of a lot more service. So that's where we get calls for 2 new potential clients, ideal clients, a week, and it's like we're a secret, and if the rest, and we still do well. I mean, I've had my firm valued and all that, and it's we're just as competitive, and we make as much money, to me fairly, as any other advisor. It's just I feel like we're doing it the right, most transparent way in a way that's on the side of the client.
Hey, I want to ask a question here from Cody Garrett that he put out there, mostly because I'm a big fan of Cody's. Do fiduciaries have a duty to reduce conflicts of interest or just disclose them? What do you all think of that? I'm sure Canute has a thought on that too.
I may have a thought or two. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say mine is they should reduce conflicts as much as possible.
Okay.
Clark?
Oh, yeah, I thought Cody was going to pitch in here. But yeah, of course, reducing conflicts wherever you can, mitigating them is an important aspect of all of our business models. I mean, there's no conflict-free business model. Some have a lot more than others. I have the biggest problem with conflicts that divide your loyalty between your client and some other source that's paying you, where as an agent, that laws of agency require you to have a duty of loyalty
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
someone other than your client. So to me, that's the biggest issue. If you can be loyal to your client, have one source of income, that client knows what that source is, and you're always clear about how that conflict works when you're giving advice. Again,
Okay.
if you have reasonably intelligent clients, they figure it out. They get it. It's not a
Thank
problem.
you. Um, Jeff, the only thing that I would add to that is no, disclosure is not enough, and how you mitigate it does matter a lot. And it is either reducing it or getting rid of it entirely. But if you can't do that, frankly, then it becomes a matter of disclosing it in such a way that the client actually understands the nature of the conflict, such as I think the example that so many people use about Carolyn, should I pay off my mortgage or not? There's the client, there's the conflict in terms of AUM, and I think they understand that. And I think use that example in terms of mitigating. If a client agrees to a conflict and truly understands it, that may be the best way to, in terms of truly mitigating it. If you can't or won't or can't avoid it, eliminate it. So anyway, that's what I just want to add. Jeff, you've got the
Yeah,
last word.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I have one more question for Clark, and then I think we got to wrap here. But I want to ask Clark, if you're charging an asset-based fee, how do you distinguish yourself from other financial planners charging the same way? Because you're clearly, nobody's competing on fees out there. Let's face it, not at the financial advisor level. So can you explain to me how you stand out?
Yeah, yeah. Our focus is on investing, and we demonstrate a background of experience and knowledge. We have the important designations of CFA and CFP and CPA, and I've been in the business for over 40 years now. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's deliverables. We will give a client every quarter an 8 to 10 page document that, and obviously it's long, and so they don't always read all of it, but they can go through that and see how their portfolio did, see how the funds and the managers that they use did against benchmarks. They can go through a institutional quality monitoring report, performance report that shows them all of this. They've got the detail if they want it. Do they all want it? No, but like one client said to me at one point, he says, "No, I don't look at it, but I'm glad you sent it to me, and don't stop."
Right.
Because
Well,
he knows it's getting done, and he knows we're paying attention to his portfolio, and he gets that
okay.
every quarter, every client.
All right. Well, asset-based fees in the advisory space still 98+% of the industry and holding strong. It seems. I don't know when it's going to ever shift away, and maybe it doesn't have to, or maybe it won't. But it seems like there are a lot of creative opportunities out there to serve different parts of the market than people with just a lot of money. I want to thank you all for being here, Carolyn McClanahan and Clark Blackman, and thanks Canute for inviting us. And I want to say a side note, my favorite part was when Carolyn kept telling Canute to mute his microphone. That was fun.
No, thanks.
Thank you,
I
Jeff.
do want to take 30 seconds to say something about the nature of what I just heard that is to me so important and in a sense so rare today. Carolyn and Clark have some very different views on which way is better and why they're better. But you know what? We heard, which we don't see, never mind in other discussions among financial advisors, but also much more broadly. Someone saying, I agree with you. Someone saying, you've got a good point. Someone saying that, that's something that I can think about. The degree to which you were able to go back and forth like that, I just think is so uncommon, so often that it was a delight to hear. So I'm gonna close on that note and say thank you for that perspective as well, and thank you, Jeff, for what you did. And don't remind me about the about the mute. I can see the next time I see Carolyn, that's the first thing she's going to say.
I'm going to show you how to mute it because I think you're pressing the wrong button. But next time we'll do that.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, one and
Okay.
all.
All
Have a
Thank
great
you
weekend.
guys.
right.
All
Thanks.
right.
All right.
All
Bye.
right. Bye
Bye,
now.
guys.